up YouTube? This is Tamara from F the Track, back for another vlog today. Basically, I wanted to do something a little bit different, basically, in terms of the videos. This time we're going to get a little bit more into the specifics and nitty-gritty in terms of what it costs to run a Lexus ISF on the track. Basically, doing multiple track days, or just for owners or prospective buyers who are wanting to track the car. Basically, to get an idea how fast does the car consume these wear items and stuff like that. You know, tires, brakes, service. We'll go through in terms of, you know, like brake flushes and stuff like that, all that kind of stuff. I'll give you some opinions on tires and stuff like that, what I've learned, kind of using different sets of tires, kind of differences between extreme summer and maximum performance summer tires, that kind of thing. But anyways, what I wanted to do is initially kind of break up the video into kind of like a primary and secondary part. And in terms of the primary stuff, you guys, we're going to start initially more with the wear items, and then the secondary stuff would be more like when you're traveling to a track day, that kind of thing. So we'll break it up into multiple pieces here. Now, in terms of the wear items, the first thing that we're going to get into, and this is going to be the most obvious, basically, is going to be the brakes. That's a dead giveaway. The fastest things that you're going to wear out on the track by far, your brakes and your tires. I mean, that you're going to slaughter them, basically. So, but it is what it is. In the end, you guys, to track any car, you know, there's that expression, basically, you have to pay to play. That's the bottom line. So, you know, to do this kind of stuff, you're going to need to be willing to spend a little bit of money, pay for a little bit of extra labor, or learn how to do the labor yourself, that kind of thing. There is going to be some extra costs, basically, because you're going to wear through stuff a little bit faster here, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So anyways, the primary wear, you know, item that we're going to go through, you guys, we'll start with the brakes, basically, and we'll start with rotors. Now, the rotors and pads on this car, they're not insanely expensive. They're not dirt cheap. You know, like you're buying something for a Ford Ranger or something like that. But they're decently priced. Now, what I wanted to bring to everybody's attention today is primary resource for anybody who's going to be tracking this car, because obviously you don't want to be buying, you know, the consumable parts from the dealership. That's not going to be a very efficient means to get anything done, basically. But yeah, eBay. eBay is an awesome resource. We also have Amazon. I found in my experience, in terms of pads and rotors, that kind of stuff, I have a lot more luck on eBay in terms of finding more selection, more vendors, and then even better deals. So I'm going to go through what I usually do, you guys, because initially, too, what I wanted to mention, you guys, is in terms of me and I track my car and it is a daily driver. I don't wrench on this thing. I know I should learn to do that a little bit more, but I don't. And I generally pay Lexus to do my labor. I buy my parts online, like a lot of guys do, and then they just take the parts to the dealership or to their mechanic, and have them take care of the work, basically. So, but still, hunting for a decent price on the items is prime. It's a good thing to do. That's what you want to do, especially if you're going to wear these things out so quickly. So generally, you guys, when I get on the eBay and I find and I go ahead and research rotors and pads for the ISF, there's going to be, you know, multiple options, and I'd say some of the options are going to be, obviously the highest are going to be the OEM pads and rotors. And in terms of pricing, I'm going to get into some specifics with you guys. I just recently ordered an OEM set of rotors, Brembo rotors, and OEM Lexus pads. Okay, now we have plenty of options out there, you guys. I'm going to let you know what I've used. The main option I would give everybody else, you guys, or I mentioned to most people out there. Sorry, you guys, I'm a doctor. Is basically the Brembo rotors, but buying Brembo rotors directly from a vendor on eBay, as opposed to buying Brembo rotors have been stamped with Lexus at the dealership. That costs literally double, and I'm going to show you guys what I mean here. So when I just purchased a brand new set of rotors and pads, OEM rotors and pads for my ISF, I paid $580. Okay, that's a lot of goddamn money. Now, the last 3 times, I want to say even 3 or 4 times that I had to do kind of renew everything with the brakes, rotors and pads, I did not do anything OEM, in terms of the rotors. I did do OEM pads, and I always do that, and I'll get into that in a second here in terms of why I always do that, basically. But I started doing instead of the Lexus rotors, started buying rotors directly from Brembo. Now, that has been fine for, I'd say, realistically, easily, you know, 18 track days, 17 track days. Never had an issue with any rotor, nothing, no cracking, nothing, no drama, nothing. Now, this last set of rotors that I got, and it was one of the the Brembo ones, basically, online, I actually cracked them for the first time. Okay, now I've done I've done I've done the same courses over and over again. Obviously I do try and jump to new ones, but the course where I found that I actually cracked my rotors was Arizona Motorsports Park, which I've been to many, many times. It's actually my favorite local track, and we were running in reverse, and the reverse direction was even more technical, so I don't think we were really building up speed any more than normal. And the time I'd been there before, I took passengers out, and we never, even with the extra weight in the car and that kind of thing, and the full speed, never had any cracking. So my only concern with the rotors, you guys, that we're finding online that are really cheap, or maybe some of the stamped Brembo ones that we think are Brembo, some of them might be just fake. They just might be fake, basically, and that's what you have to watch out for. What I've been reading online, basically, is when you look at the stamp that says Brembo on the rotor, it should look nice and clean, okay? And it should, like, when you look at the stamping on the rotor, you're going to see these very kind of nice, smoothly stamped numbers. Everything looks in line. It looks almost like it was stamped in one piece. Apparently, when you find more of the fake ones, or the forged stamped ones, if you look at the Brembo emblem, and again, you don't really have it until that shit's in your hand, sitting in your hand. Online, every picture to me looks the same. But apparently, when you look at the Brembo stamp's kind of crooked. It looks a little chintzy, basically. You can tell that doesn't look legit. It's kind of subtle. Most people don't notice. They just kind of take them out of the box. The tech will just kind of bolt them up and out the door, basically. This is what it is. So my only issue is, because I cracked this last set of Brembo stamped rotors, I ended up just going with straight up OEM rotors this time, and I literally, it was quite a bit more. So again, to back up again, front OEM rotors and pads on the ISF on eBay are going to average you about $580, maybe $585, depending on the vendor. Now, if you go with the cheaper option, and I'm going to give you a cheaper option on the pads as well. I just mentioned the rotors. You can buy Brembo rotors from a Brembo vendor on eBay. Now, the secondary option in terms of the pads, instead of buying OEM pads, and I'll give you guys a heads up, I have not tried this myself, and you might probably have read this online, or you will read this online if you do a little bit of research on brakes on this car. But we have the option also, you guys, to go to what they call a Techstar pad. Now, Techstar, apparently they're the company that makes the pads for Lexus. Apparently, I guess back in the day it was a company called Jurid, and then now it seems like Techstar is the one who's responsible for doing it. We have had some people mention online that they've done some research, and it is the exact same listed compound for the pad. Now, what I've also read online, when you look at these Techstar pads, and again, I haven't tried them, you guys, when somebody took them, literally lined them up right next to each other to a completely, stock OEM Lexus pad, it comes with a Toyota Lexus stamp on it. There were some very slight variances, basically, in the pad design at the very edges, okay? I think for the most part, that's going to be fine, basically, on the street. I don't think it's probably going to be an issue on the track. But to be honest, you guys, after I just cracked a set of rotors, and I know it's not a big deal, but I did crack my rotors, I just went all OEM. So now the annoying thing about that, like I mentioned, is $580 for the OEM pads and rotors. Now, if you do the Techstar pads with the Brembo rotors, now be careful with the Brembo rotors, but I think for the most part they're going to be fine. It's literally it's right under half the cost. It was $275 as opposed to the $580. So I mean, literally, it's just a notch under half. So that's that's quite a bit cheaper. So I think down the line, I'll probably be going back to the Brembo rotors, and I'm going to give these Techstar pads a chance, basically, here, especially now that I've researched and it looks like it is actually the same material and compound. My only issue is if there's any variance in the design on the edges of the pad, will that cause any shifting? So just, annoying shit, like basically just minor stuff, you guys, if you got OCD, and I do have OCD, okay? You're backing your car up and you're kind of touching the pedal, and you get a little clicking, and you're like, well, what the hell is that noise? I don't like my car, even though I beat the shit out of this car, and I baby it this in terms of maintenance and that kind of thing, but I expect a lot. So even though I track the car, I want it to be silent. And that's another reason, you guys, why I stick with the OEM pads and rotors. I just don't want any noise. I know another big-time ISF track junkie, big-time respect to him, who recently told me about the slotted option. And then another guy, too, who's got quite the build on his ISF. He's got the two-piece rotors as well, and I think those are great. Now, the issue with the two-piece rotors is just cost. That's the bottom line. Now, those fuckers, man, it's like 700 and change. I've seen them as high up to 900 and change for the ISF. That's a lot more. I mean, considering you usually get a set of OEM rotors for, you know, $280, not even, you know, $285, that kind of thing. So we're talking, you know, 3 times the price for a set of rotors. That's, in my opinion, that's insane. If you're tracking the car and it's a full-on race car and you're looking for every little, you know, advantage and you want reduced, you know, unsprung rate, then go for it, basically, especially if you're a baller too, man, go for it. Now so I already mentioned too to just watch out for the fakes, you guys, on the rotors. I'd probably just try and get it from a reputable you know, vendor, basically, on eBay. Just make sure the ratings are good. You don't hear anything, you know, anybody complaining about shit like that. I'm sure anybody, if they found out they had fakes, they would mention it, basically, here. Now the second thing I'm going to jump into, you guys, and this is the, you know, the second, number 2 massive consumable on the track for any track cars, your tires. So let's get into tires, basically, here. Now, in terms of the tires, I'm only going to speak on what I've used. I'll give you maybe some opinions on other stuff, basically, here. But in terms of what I used on the track, you guys, I've used the Michelin Pilot Sports, which are the top-notch ones, Super Sports, excuse me. And I've also used what came on the car stock, which were the Bridgestone Potenza REO8 or REO5. What is it? REO50A, I believe it is. Sorry about that, you guys. Which was a really good tire, basically. So I used the Michelin, I used the Bridgestones. Now what I'm using right now, and I did upsize, so it's not necessarily direct comparison in terms of grip and that kind of a thing, but what I'm using right now, you guys, is the Yokohama Advan Niova 8008R, which is, in my opinion, a fucking stellar tire. Now what I've discovered, basically, as the track days has gone on, because I've probably still done at least half my track work with, actually not half the track, let me see here. I want to say probably about 12, not even, probably about 9 of the track days were done with OEM size tires, and then what we would call just the maximum performance summer tires, like the Michelin Super Sports or the Bridgestone Potenzas, that kind of a thing. The car does very, very well with them initially. Now the issue, you guys, with the track is the car is, as the sessions will continue and the laps continues and the corners continue and the braking continues, the tires progressively get hotter and hotter and hotter. Okay. Now as they get hotter and hotter and hotter, these things progressively start to I don't want to say they start to melt, but you almost get this oil that starts to come out. You're almost burning them. So the oil that holds the actual material together to create the tire starts to come out. So the surface actually gets lubricated, and then the car starts to drop off in terms of grip. You start losing performance. So what you're going to find generally is when you compare these maximum performance summer tires compared to the extreme performance summer tires, is basically how is this thing going to hold up to repeated track days and repeated sessions. Remember, we're not out there just to do, you know, a couple laps and we go home. You're beating the shit out of the tires all day long. It goes back to, or reminds me of a story of my first instructor when I went out my first track day. I'd just picked up the car. It was used, but I've had brand new tires on it from the dealer. They put them on for me when I bought it. And I went out there, and I remember the instructor goes, "Hey man, so are these tires in great shape?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're excellent. They're solid, man. No problem." He's like, "They're brand new?" And I'm like, "Yeah, brand new." He's like, "Great, let's go out there and put 10,000 miles on them." So it's funny because, yeah, in the end, you know, it sounds like a joke, but in the end, yes, you're going to put some pretty solid wear on them. And it's not just wear in terms of actually eating up the actual tread depth, you guys. You're drying them out. The amount of heat that you're going to put through those tires, you know, some tires, again, they're designed for maximum performance. I would say it's maximum street performance, basically. And then you can move up to more like the Yokohama Advan Niova 8008R, or tires like the Sport Cup 2s, the Michelins, which are insane. Those are literally, I would define those basically as supercar tires. Now those tires are all designed to give you even more enhanced grip. They're going to have less of the sipes from the water, and then the compound is again designed to hold up for to maintain performance under even more extreme temperatures, basically. So it's going to hold up better. It's going to perform better on the track. It's worth the and it's not really an extra investment. It's almost like a lateral payment here. Like imagine basically when I used to buy my your normal Bridgestones or your Michelins, and I'm talking about buying the good stuff, you guys. It's going to cost you about $1,200 for a set of tires on the ISF. I'm not talking about the SO4s and that kind of thing. That's not a bad tire. I've never used them on track. I'm not going to say anything negative about them in terms of like personal experience, basically. But I mean, just in terms of my opinion, I mean, how the fuck is a $700 set of tires going to compare to a $1,250 set of tires. I know there's marketing and Michelin and blah 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 and this and that, but I mean, give me a fucking break, you guys. I think when it comes down to tires, you get what you pay for. That's one of the few things. That's just the bottom line. That's just the way it works. There's no bargains on tires. You get what you pay for. There's some slight variances, maybe between brands at the same level, but don't think that you're going to get a $700 tires and it's a smoking deal compared to those $1,400 Michelins or Yokohamas. You're not getting away with anything basically, or much of anything. It's a great way to kind of extend tire life, or kind of not break the bank when you're just driving on the street, which is fine. But I'm talking about track use. So again, I'm not speaking from personal experience. I mean, that's just my opinion. I wouldn't touch those tires for track work, or at least not repeated over and over track work like I'm doing. So again, you guys, in terms of tires, just remember, extreme performance better than max performance. So when you're doing your searches, try, if you're going to get into this kind of thing, try and upgrade. It doesn't cost you much more. I think the Michelin Super Sports used to be like $1,250, let's say, for the ISF, and that was in the stock sizes, the 225 and the 255. I've moved up to the 255 in the front, 295, and I'm spending, I want to say, $1,330 for the Yokohama. So it's not, it's not a stretch. It's an $80 difference, and we're talking, these are massive. I mean, relative to the stocks, these are steamrollers basically. So do yourself a favor, try and move up. Now, in terms of performance, the performance is going to be, it's going to be enhanced in terms of dry grip and that kind of thing. You might drop off slightly in terms of wet grip. I live in Arizona, you guys, so I really don't give a damn. In terms of wear, obviously the wear rating is not going to be as high. I find that most of the tires that I'm using now, instead of closer to a 300, 350 tread wear rating, these are closer to, let's say, 150, 160, that kind of a thing with the Yokohama Advent. So but I still manage, to be honest, to get exactly the same amount of mileage of wear, rear and front set, compared to the Michelins that were rated at 300. So I'm pretty happy with these. But again, remember, just in terms of tires, extreme performance better than max performance. And then always remember too, you guys, the bottom line basically, in my opinion, is cheap is not good and good is not cheap, especially with your tires. That's the only thing that's going to put you onto the ground when you're on the track and you're doing like over a G around a corner. So don't skimp there, you know what I mean? Pads, you might find that one distributor selling it cheaper than one, or Techstars are the same as the OEMs or whatever. The tires, spend extra money basically here. Now, in terms of servicing, you guys, a car that's tracked regularly, I would say, at the rate that I'm going right now, I'm doing about 7 track days a year, so almost every 2 months. That's pretty considerable. It's not a freaking race car, basically. I'm out there every weekend, but it's still pretty considerable. So, but what I find, you guys, instead of most, like a lot of owners out there, I don't tend to stretch my oil. I don't do 7,000. I don't go to 8,000. I'm literally, as soon as that fucking light goes on at 5,000, I'm freaking out and, hey, calling the dealer, and I need an appointment to get in and get the oil done. I get my loaner car and I go to work, come back, and oil's all fresh. So I would recommend that if you are going to be tracking the car, especially regularly, make sure you're doing your oil changes every 5, or sometimes I even do them every 4. And so far what I've been doing is doing just the synthetic, which I'm learning now is basically a synthetic blend. It's not really 100% synthetic, but I've been doing just the Mobil 1 synthetic at the dealer. I was doing initially back in the day, you guys, since I was doing it so frequently, I was doing just kind of the dinosaur oil, basically standard kind of shit, and that was working absolutely fine. Because I do track in Arizona, you guys, the temperatures here get a little high, and it's crazy because it's still fucking May, and I had a track day last week, and we got into the mid-90s. The bad thing about the ISF, the Achilles heel, as I always tell everybody, basically with the ISF, is on the track, with any kind of track day or any kind of track work over 95 degrees, 93 degrees, and that's exactly where I was last week, is you can raise the oil temperature to the max. Okay. Now, obviously, as we know, most of those enthusiasts know, when that oil temperature goes to the max, what does it do? It gets super, super watery and thin, starts to break down, doesn't protect. Okay, so that's what you don't want. So I have been on the track before, you guys, where I run the car. We're running pretty hard, and I am in the advanced group, so we're running pretty quick, and you're trying to keep up, basically. So I've run the car basically to the point where the high engine oil temperature warning light has come on the dash, which is a little alarming, literally. Now, because that's happened before, what I've decided to do basically is I've gone and upped, and I recently ordered complete 100% the real deal synthetic oil, basically, or the AMS oil, which is in the Signature series is what I'm using. and I would recommend that, you guys, for anybody who's doing any, like I said, any type of prolonged or extra track work. If you're doing it just, you know, you're going to do it, you know, once a year, that kind of thing, twice a year, I wouldn't really go out of the way to spend triple for the oil or double for the oil, that kind of thing, especially if you're going to, you know, you're going to do it in normal intervals and that kind of thing. Just stick with the normal stuff. But like I said, with me, I'm out there like every 7 weeks on average, basically. So I'm going to try this AMS oil stuff, see how it works. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it in terms of wear. I've had people who race their cars tell me they've never had, whether it's a differential or it's a transmission or it's a motor, they've never had anything blow up or anything like that with it. They also know notice a little bit more efficiency out of the motors. They even say too that when you pull the dipstick to check the oil, it's even slicker. But bottom line, when you guys are going to track your car, make sure you maintain as Lexus recommends, or even slightly sooner. Oil changes for me, you guys, are running about $160 to $170, and that's because the car takes, I think it's 9.8 quarts of oil, so that's a lot of goddamn oil. So again, that's why sometimes people get a little sticker shock, especially if they drove a V6 before the ISF. It takes a lot of oil. So 10 quarts of oil, 160, 170 usually, and then try and switch to the good stuff, the best oil that you can put in the car, basically here. Now, I'm going to get into the secondary portion, you guys, just kind of the incidentals in terms of tracking the car, which isn't necessarily directly maintenance. Just, you know, registration and that kind of thing, travel, you know, what that kind of stuff costs if you're going to be doing that. Now, not every track day everybody's going to be out there, you know, driving hundreds of miles, that kind of thing. I've done a handful, basically, where I've had to drive, I want to say maybe about 700 miles round trip, that kind of thing. You know, if there's a will, there's a way, so you get in there and do it, basically, here. So obviously you're going to, some expense there too is going to be your traveling expense, your gas, your hotel, obviously wear and tear on the car, which isn't really that super significant, especially on a Lexus, basically, right? But yeah, you know, that stuff. I mean, generally too, I'll be honest, you guys, when I stay in a hotel, I'm not balling it out. I'm not buying or renting a $400 a night hotel. You usually get your $150, $140 a night hotel. Try not to go, at least in my opinion, I don't go much cheaper than that, because I don't want some sleazy ass place. I don't want to be able to. I want to be able to go to bed and make sure my car's okay when I wake up in the morning. In terms of functional stuff on the track, you guys, we're obviously always going to need a helmet. Helmets can be had, and a good helmet, something safe, you know, it's rated high enough to be out there tracking the car. I mean, you can have a decent helmet for, let's say, as little as $180, $160, basically. Now, if you go to an M-rated helmet, which are still very safe and they're approved for most groups, I actually have a carbon fiber M-rated helmet. I got it for, I think it was like 130 bucks. So I'm not going to say it's, you know, it's the you know, the utmost in quality. I've had no issues with material, fitment, nothing like that, basically. And obviously it's rock hard, and I know it's rated, at least for motorcycles, which is enough to track the car. And I think it looks pretty cool, so I enjoy it, basically, here. So I do use both, or I do have options to wear either one. If I have a passenger, it's kind of cool to have another one. So those will run you, like I said, about 150 bucks, and obviously you can go as high. I mean, I've seen them cost, you know, 2, 3, 4, even 5 grand for a helmet. So it just depends on how hardcore you want to be. Remember, this is just HPDE, you guys, high performance driver education. You know, so we're out there having fun. We're not, you know, it's not the full-on racing kind of thing where I've got the electronic setup and the speakers inside, and, you know, the water, you know, the water hose and that kind of thing, or the tube for the drinking and all that stuff. The other thing you guys are going to need with most groups, not every group, my Pro Auto group here in Arizona, they don't usually require this item, which is the tow hook. Pretty simple item to have, and it's definitely going to make it much easier to get you off the track. God forbid there's any kind of an off, which can happen. Knock on wood, I haven't had any offs where I've had to be towed. I've had little kind of like, we'll call it a little slight detour where I drop a couple tires and come back on. No big deal. But when I run with Pro Auto in Arizona, they don't usually require a tow hook. Tow hooks can be purchased for about $30 online. Again, I buy it on it's either eBay or Amazon. I think I did get my tow hook on Amazon. And they have two different options. You've got the standard kind of the metal ones with it's kind of the metal arm and then the metal ring, or you've got the metal arm with this kind of the I don't want to say it's a cloth kind of material. But it's a flimsy kind of material, basically. So it just depends on what you want to do. You have two different options there, basically. They run you about 30, 35 bucks, so definitely not a big deal. Most people at the Speed Ventures groups, basically, or track days, they obviously have to have those. They strongly recommend them, because they say that if you do go off without one, they'll tow your car from the fucking B pillar, and they're not responsible for any damage, because they have to get you off to continue the session. So again, pretty wise, you know, $30 investment for the track, you guys. Other thing, and I know it sounds very basic, you guys, just a track chair. Make sure you get yourself something comfortable. You're going to be out there realistically anywhere from I'd say about 6 to 8 hours, sometimes, you know, 5 to 7 hours. It just depends on how many sessions you're going to run and how hot it is. Arizona, they get pretty hot, so sometimes even when they offer it's an extra 5th session, everybody's like, fuck this, I'm out, I'm burnt. So yeah, that's definitely something you want to have, basically. So make sure you get yourself a track chair. The track chair I have, you guys, it costs $30 at Walmart. Holds up to 300 pounds, so it'll hold most of us out there, basically. Cool thing too is it's got a little side table that's collapsible, and it's got a cup holder, so kind of cool if you're sitting there and you're on your phone, you're waiting for a session, you can have a place to set your coffee and your helmet. The other thing I would recommend, especially if you are going to be out there and you've got these full session days where you're out there for 5 to 7 hours, like I said, 6 to 8 hours, you want to make sure you want to pick up what they call an Easy Up, one of these small lifted pop-up tent kind of things that you can park your car under. Just to give you some shade, you guys. You don't want to get burnt basically out there. That's no good. Okay, you want to go out and enjoy yourself, not jump in the shower the next day or that night and get like burning your shoulder and like, what the fuck. So again, I'd recommend it. For me, basically, I know it's odd, but I actually like the sun exposure. I work indoors and I have no windows in my office, actually, so I tend to I kind of don't mind the extra sun. I put my sunscreen even on my bald head. I have no issues. I just soak it up. That's my only time to get a suntan, basically, when I'm not on vacation. So I enjoy it, but I would like to pick one up in the future. And those things will run you, I mean, nothing big, basically. I've seen them, you know, at Walmart anywhere between $100 to $200, depending on the size, maybe how easy it is to set up, and maybe its quality, basically. So nothing super duper expensive, you guys. I did want to jump back into one item before I let you guys go or end the video here, basically. I've had some questions too in terms of brake flushes and that kind of thing. I'm just going to speak for myself, you guys. In terms of brake flushes or fluid flushes, that kind of stuff, I've done, in 3 years, I've done my fluid, I want to say 3 times. So it's not something I've done every single track day or every other track day. I know some guys are literally bleeding their brakes constantly, that kind of a thing. I've never had an issue with that kind of stuff. The one thing too I will mention to you guys too, and this was a bit odd to me, and I did find that even when I looked up, I did a little research, and there's what I find online too for a good track resource, you guys, is Porsche Club of America, or their forums. They got a lot of really hardcore track guys there, a lot of good information. But what I found basically is when I switched up my my brake fluid from the standard Lexus fluid that comes with the ISF to the Motul, whatever, RBF 600, whatever it is basically here, which was, you know, highly recommended. And I've run on my other cars in the past, or I had on a G35 in the past. I found that even though, you know, it was highly rated and it's not going to boil and this and that and whatever, I found that the pedal feel didn't feel as good. I felt like it felt less direct. Now, I know a lot of people out there initially, and I thought the same thing too. The first thing you're going to think is, oh, there's air in the system or something like that, or and that's why you're getting the soft, spongy pedal. No, it wasn't a soft, spongy pedal, man. It just felt like, it almost felt like the modulation wasn't as, I don't want to say it wasn't as good. It just felt like it was different. It didn't feel as direct. You still could get the same kind of response, but you just felt like you had to go a little bit deeper, just slightly, and I didn't like that. And the funny thing is, when I did some research into it, I saw like probably about 4 other posts from Porsche owners, 911 owners, that said the same thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So again, you know, I know a lot of guys get really, you know, they get really big basically on, oh, you got to change this and oh, you got to change that. I still think, you guys, this car, even after 22 track days, and I only switched my fluid for 2 track days, and I to be honest, I don't want to say I regretted it, but yeah, I wouldn't switch back to it. Let's put it that way. Everything OEM on this car fucking holds up fine, you guys. Everything on this car OEM, it totally holds up fine, especially if you know it's fucking OEM. Like I said, I had the cracked rotors, which wasn't a big deal. I'm still going to run them at Auto Club next month, and the same pads too that are on there, basically, especially because I'm doing service next week, and I'll have to check all that stuff out just in case. But yeah, the OEM stuff, it works really, really well. I've run many different tracks, and I know we've had some people on Club Lexus, some more than others, basically made comments like, oh, well, you know, are the tracks that you're on fast, or, you know, that kind of a thing. Well, you know, initially, yeah, I was topping out basically maybe over 100, 110. You know, basically as the track days have gone on, and I've moved to different courses, and I think the Auto Club's going to be course number 10. So I've got more track, you know, time on different tracks. Basically, I still think than most out there on the ISF. fucking fine. I've had no issues at all. I mean, we're topping out at Mondo at like maybe 133, 134. I've had no issues basically, and then when we're going to Auto Club next month, we're going to be topping out over 140 basically on the bend basically. So I don't think it's going to be an issue, especially with there too, because you're going to brake basically into the bend, then you coast out of the bend into the braking zone. So generally you're going to be coming down slowly. It's not this massive thing. So anyways, you guys, what I'm getting at basically is I haven't had any issues with my fluid. I've never had any issues with my pads. The only issue I've ever had with a rotor was a slight crack basically, and they're very small, and these are rotors that weren't, I'm just going to say they're not 100% OEM. So my only question too is that when I have the tech take them off next time to replace them, I'm going to have them check and see if the stamp is legit or if it looks fake basically here. So those are generally that's just the point I wanted to make basically in terms of the brakes, you guys. Brake fluid is dirt cheap. It's really cheap. I mean, you can get the fluid that you need for the ISF, I mean, probably 60 bucks. So it's not something really expensive to replace. The labor at the dealer, it's going to cost you maybe, you know, I think it was 190 bucks or 180 bucks. So not the end of the world. But again, I don't think it's something that needs to be addressed as frequent. I've never had any issue with brakes on the ISF ever. So in terms of tracking the car, you guys, like I said, there's going to be some, you know, there's going to be the wear items that we're going to go through the fastest. It's going to be the brakes and the tires. It is what it is, basically. I just wanted to share with you guys the, you know, the amounts that I'm spending, different options that you guys can go with. And remember, just, you know, if you're going to shop around, but try not to skimp, basically, because remember, when you're at the track, you're upping everything in terms of what you're asking the car to, the level of performance you're asking the car for. So, you know, you don't want to mess with your safety, okay? Hey guys, I'm back just to add one little final point here, and I'm actually surprised I forgot to even add this, you guys. How long do these wear items, how long do they last? We already went through, you know, every item and what they cost and where to get them and, you know, that kind of thing, and what we need to run when we're out there, basically, from the wear items down to the incidentals. But how long do these wear items last? This is important, especially for somebody who does want to get out there and start doing this with the ISF a little bit more frequently. Not just kind of the, you know, maybe once a year kind of a thing, basically, which is cool as well. So what I'm going to give you guys more is kind of the nitty gritty in my experience. And again, my experience is based on 3 years of ownership, 42,000 miles, and then again 21 track days over the 3 years. And the track days started, like I said, like I've mentioned before in other videos, I think it was less than 8 weeks after I picked up the car. So it's been a full 3 years. Let's start with the brakes. Now the brakes are big time wear items, obviously, same with the tires. Now in terms of the brakes, you guys, the rotors for me with the 21 track days that I've done and on the courses that I've been, or circuits that I've been on, I can usually get about 6 to 7 track days per set of rotors, and that is with the mileage that takes me to and from work and all the running around that I'm doing. So I mean, if we were to break that up basically over the 3 years, we got what, 42,000 miles. It's going to be what, 13 and change, probably, something like that. Maybe even 14,000 miles, that kind of thing per year. Okay, so in terms of the mileage with the stuff, it's not bad basically. So if I'm going to get to 6 to 7 track days and let's say 14,000 miles, that's not bad basically, or that's not bad at all, I think. Per set of rotors. Now the pads, obviously, they tend to go a little bit faster. I tend to maybe get 3 track days out of those, maybe 3 or 4. They wear out a little bit faster, but it's cool. You can always slap a new set of pads on. It's not ideal, but you can always slap a new set of pads on with an old set of rotors, which is no big deal. I've done that many times. So that's how long those last. Now in terms of the tires, for me, you guys, the tires for me go a lot quicker than I'd probably like to admit to myself or even my wife, basically, who's been extremely cool about all this stuff. I'd say over the 42,000 miles, 21 track days, I've probably gone through 5 sets of tires. I'm on the 5th right now, and the 5th set right now are still good. Probably about 50% worn from what I'm at right now. So I'd say each set of tires is going to last me about 8,000 miles. It's kind of hard to admit, man. 8,500 miles, something like that. Now, I remember what I was first doing initially, especially too when I had still just the OEM sizes and I was still trying to figure things out, you guys. is I was finding that if I push the rears, I could get as high as even, like, let's say 9,000 out of the rears before they'd be cooked. Like, I mean, I'm like launching from lights and spinning at every launch. You're losing grip on the track, that kind of thing. You just want to throw them away. After about 9,500 miles, 10,000, forget it, basically here. Now, I find with the rears, those go quite a bit longer. Or, excuse me, with the fronts, they go quite a bit longer, basically. But the issue is the way the car handles dynamically when you start replacing tires differently front and back. Now, what I found over the years, basically, is when you replace the rear tires when they need to go before the fronts, you got a nice sticky set of rears and you got a worn out set of fronts. Now all of a sudden you got an ISF that loves to understeer on the track, which is no fun. And I find personally that understeer can be more dangerous than oversteer, because oversteer is a very quick snap correction. It's very easy to catch, at least in my experience, in my own personal opinion. It's very easy to correct. Understeer, it's kind of like, holy fuck, what's going on? You know, it's just a little harder to correct, and it takes longer to correct. Even though it does correct itself, because the car naturally does slow down. But bottom line, like I said, is when you start replacing the rears before the front, you have a car that understeers. So what I tend to do with my car, you guys, I tend to stretch my rear tires quite a bit. I'm not an idiot, basically. I don't take them down to the belts like some of these people do on some of the forums. It's insane, basically. They're like, hey, I got 20,000 out of a set of tires. Like, no, you didn't. You got 10,000 out of a set of tires. Those fuckers needed to go a long time ago. But I tend to wear them down beyond the indicator. Obviously, I don't go down to where they're bald, but they're almost bald, basically here. So what I've done, basically, instead of doing, let's say, the fronts every 9,000 miles into the rears every 9, and the fronts every, let's say, 12 or 13,000, I end up replacing them all at the same time, basically. So I end up taking the hit on the fronts, but you end up replacing, let's say, throwing away the last 30% of the front tires. You kind of donate that to the track gods, but you got a car that handles very neutral, especially when you're all excited and you head out on the track and you got a fresh set of tires as opposed to just a fresh set of rears or a fresh set of fronts, basically, which doesn't usually happen. It's usually the other way around. So again, I can usually get, you know, a fair amount of mileage in terms of, you know, mixed city and highway driving, as well as, you know, track days, probably like every 2 months or something like that. So not bad. I've gotten used to it. It's not ideal. It was actually interesting, when I was in Spring Mountain a couple track days ago. I met a really cool, very cool guy in a Mazda Miata, one of the newer generations, who was tracking the hell out of his, and he had a Lexus ISF before it. And I asked him, I said, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, well, why'd you get rid of the ISF? And he said, yeah, you want to know the truth? And I said, yeah. And he goes, just the fucking way it goes through tires. He goes, I just got so sick and tired of the way it consumes tires, especially on the track. I remember the first time when I went out on the track and I had my Michelins, the Pilot Super Sports, and I remember I got an alignment like maybe the set before, and those fuckers went like in 6,000 miles or 5,500 miles, and it was pretty bad. So again, I can understand his point, but again, it goes back to what I said initially, basically at the beginning of the video. If you're going to track your car to an extent, yeah, you have to pay to play. You're going to wear out some, wear items, and these wear items do cost money. And these are the items that some people try and go easy on. They're always watching their pressures for their tires and that kind of thing, or you try and take it easy on the brakes and that kind of thing to make them last a little bit longer. With the track, it's literally the opposite. It's completely the opposite. You're going as deep and as hard as you can into these braking zones. You're literally just stomping. I'm literally standing on the pedal basically to stop the car. So it is what it is, basically. So the cool thing is, for some of you guys out there who know how to do work on your own, which I'm not one of them, and God bless you guys if you do have the skill and the experience and the knowledge to do that thing, you're good. That's big time. But yeah, if you guys have the knowledge and the know how to do it, or even the gusto to watch one of these, there are plenty of YouTube videos, like DIY YouTube videos on how to do your own brakes on the ISF or that kind of thing. And thank you to those people who have done those videos as well. I'm not one of those generally. I still have just taken it to the dealer basically here. So again, yes, there are some extra expense to tracking the car, whether it's in terms of wear items or registration, travel, that kind of stuff. It adds up basically, but it's a lot of fun. There's guys out there who spend hundreds of dollars on rounds of golf. They go drinking. Some guys go fishing and they have boats and that kind of thing. Some of us just like to go to the track. So it is what it is. Basically, it's something I enjoy, something I call a passion, and it's something it's a pleasure. And I think it's more fun than fishing. It's more exciting. Anyways, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching again. And thank you you so much for subscribing to the page. And if you like the videos, would like to see more videos like this, subscribe to the page. There'll be more stuff coming in the future. And we are on Facebook as well, so if you guys do like the videos, there's plenty of cool content on Facebook and Instagram as well. But thanks again, you guys, for watching the vlog. We'll catch you guys next time. Take care.